Okay, good evening, leaders.
Evening to you.
Evening.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to hang out with you this evening as we get into lesson 7 and hopefully lesson 8. So I trust you are all well. I trust you're coping well with the book review and also the manual review of the previous lessons. So I just want us to get into the lesson immediately, but just note that as usual, our chat is open. Our chat platform is open, so we'll continue interacting through the chat. Feel free to interact with us as we move on. We'll also get back to you maybe for feedback on how you are faring on during the breaks. Yeah, so I just request that we all mute so that we have little interference. So let me just mute everyone for now. Okay, so we are now on lesson 7. We are looking at the foundation is evolution of leadership. But before we get to evolution of leadership, we look at 3 major categories of leadership. Just an overview. And then from there, we'll look at the evolution of leadership. And then we'll move on to lesson 8. Now, to kick on, I trust you can see my screen, all of you. How many triangles can you see? How many triangles can you see? Yeah, just take 30 seconds or so just to count. And then share on the chat how many you can see. Share on the chat. Any answer is good. It depends. I know some of you are in maybe your dimension of counting will be different. So we appreciate every answer. We appreciate every dimension at which we look at this triangle. But let's just jog our mind. How many triangles do you see? So I can see some messages coming in. So just share as we continue. Okay, someone says 8 triangles. George, thank you. 8 triangles. Okay, someone else? Reverend Evanson says 12 triangles. Thank you, Reverend. Okay, so let me take 2 more. 2 more triangles. How many triangles can you see? Yeah, those who have participated in this exercise, you are exempted for now. Yeah. So let me take 2 more. 2 more. 2 more. How many triangles can you see? Or can you count? 8 triangles, 12 triangles. Next person who will help us to move forward quickly. Help us move on, sharing how many you can see, how many triangles you can see. Pastor Steve, 21. Thank you, Pastor Steve. Finally. Let me pick one, last one. Last one. We have 8 triangles, 12 triangles, 21 triangles, and all of us are looking at the same picture. All of us are looking at the same shape. But I like the diversity. So last one. Thank you. Thank you, Milka, for helping us to move forward. 9. Milka says 9. Wow, Reverend Evanson has also the second input. The first input was 12. The second input from Reverend Evanson is 24. Let's see the answer. Wow. Can we give a clap to Reverend Evanson? 24. Great, great, great. Thank you so much. So, Reverend, let me just get to you maybe for one or so minutes. Initially, your answer was 12, and then
I got 12.
Yeah, and then now later on you got 24. So maybe let's just get your that change, and also how you arrived probably at the 24, and maybe one lesson that you can share with us regarding leadership.
At first, I saw 12. I had forgotten another rule on this kind of equation. So I went back again and I realized that for every square or for every partition, you can combine it with others to create a new perception. So that is what I did. I started from the top. I got the triangle. Then inside there, I combined. I had a set of combinations there. And I got those ones until I got 24. And the reason I'm getting is that you can be able to harness your leadership by getting the what we can call the variables on the ground and creating a new perception of an idea. I hope I'm getting anywhere. You caught me off guard, man.
Thank you so much. I like the idea of combining the triangles. And I think when we are talking about issues of innovation, one of the key lessons we always share is that innovation sometimes may not be something new, but it might be a combination. Might be a combination of one idea, one strength, and then you end up forming a new opinion that is probably much productive, much workable. So I like that idea of combination is really important. And also relooking at what you had shared, and you're able to come up with a new idea from the same person. Yeah. So Reverend Kahindi, maybe just one or two lessons, and then we'll move on.
Thank you very much. Good evening, leaders. As you can see from the screen there, you'll find when you first looked at it, you saw one, and then as you looked on, you saw more, and they are becoming more and more the more you are concentrating on it. So one, in leadership, you will get more opportunities. You will learn how to do things better as long as you put your focus on it. That's one. As Reverend Evanson has said, there are always 2, 3, 4, or many ways of looking at something. And as he said, at first he looked at it and all he could see was only 12. But if you now begin combining some things here and there, you will find you are getting more details now. For a lesson, in leadership, the people you are leading, the more you study them, the more you look at them, the more you understand them, and therefore the better you can lead them. In whatever you do, if you put your focus there, you can learn more. This one is applicable in any form of leadership. If you are leading in a church and you understand your leaders or the people who are working, supporting you better, then you can develop them better. If you are leading in your family, in your marriage, you'll find the more you give yourself to it, the better it becomes. If you are leading in a company, again, the same thing. So there is an issue of concentration, there's an issue of detail, there's an issue of focus. And let me leave it there for now so that I don't go too long. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Combination, focus, concentration, and we also reinforce the issue of details. Sometimes you need to be more detailed, and I think this is why we always want to test our ideas by looking at more literature. You want to get detailed. Sometimes we look at the surface, but I think as a leader, we remember the learning loops, the single learning loop, double learning loop, triple learning loop. That lesson is very important when you're looking at such kind of an icebreaker. It's about getting probably more detailed. Someone will just look and see probably the face, but as a leader, you'll want to get behind the curtains, you'll want to get underneath the surface, you'll want to get below the the tip of the iceberg. You want to see what is back there, what is down there. So we can jog around as we continue. Feel free to share your lesson on the chat. Any lesson that you're getting from this icebreaker, feel free to share. We'll get back to that and just share your opinion also, because every opinion and every perspective is appreciated. It comes with a new way of looking at things. So, so let's go on. I want just to remind you that we are still climbing. We are still climbing, and we hope that we'll see you up where those two guys are. And that will be at lesson 16. So at lesson 16, we'll be holding hands and rejoicing with those guys, having arrived at the top of the mountain. For now, what we need is your determination, your inner drive, your consistency, your perseverance, your trading off your probably your comfort and some of the engagements here and there as you've already been doing. Let's keep on doing that. Intentional strategies, being intentional as we move on, and even the focus in this class, and have the big picture that at the end of it all, we'll be able to be more valuable, be more skillful, be more productive, and probably will be able to lift up the lead from where it has been to a higher level and lift the lead of those that we are leading. So let's remember this triangle every time. Anytime you feel like quitting, please remember that even if you climb the mountain and you reach halfway and you get down, there's a story that was shared of some guys who reached the midway, and they stopped, and other guys went up. And when those guys who went to the top came down and met these guys who did not climb to the top, they were sharing very exciting stories of how the peak looked, how the snow was, and these other guys could not share anything because they didn't get to the top of the mountain. So we all want to have those stories. Let's keep on moving. We are here for you, and we will be able to guide you where we need our input. So straight away, we look at the 3 categories of leadership. I won't go into the details. I'm sure probably most of you have already gone through this, but just to give us a recap and just to ensure that we are all at par, we look at the 3 categories of leadership. Leadership has generally been categorized into 3 categories. This is, look at the historical studies on leadership. These are some of the categories that have been identified, and one of them is the common one, political leadership. Yeah, political leadership. And then we have military leadership. And the third one is religious leadership. I'll just handle these 3. Maybe there might be more, but for now, we'll just focus on this. Political leadership, we refer to it, or we normally we term it as a function. This is a function rather than a position. Yeah, and the role as a political leader is obtained through the ability to serve. That function that a leader is entrusted to serve in. Some through, I think for us, we know there are various ways people get into this position. there are democratic, there are many other methods that are applied. So I won't go into the details of that, but I just want to just mention that political leadership, the focus here is mostly on issues of mobilization of political community. And the issue is leading a community in formulation of problem diagnosis and some strategies, as well as how to champion those strategies. Yeah, so this is the core of political leadership. It's a function and also involves the mobilization of the political community in formulating problem diagnosis and political strategy. So there's a lot of participatory leadership here, or participatory approach, which is deemed very key when it comes to political leadership. That's why you realize most of the political leaders, they engage a lot on stakeholders consultation, because it's about political, the interest of the people, that they are holding that champion to that position just to help champion the progress of the community as at a large. So some qualities, and I think here on the qualities, this is important. Let's look at this as we also look at our own country and our own political arena. These are some of the qualities that are deemed very important for you to be a political leader. Patriotism. Yeah, good education. Good education can be subjective. Honesty, looking at political professionalism, charisma, intelligence, responsibility, strength of character, service to the people, and bravery. Yeah, so just look at this, and I think it's good to also to mirror ourselves and also to look at the political arena and how well are these qualities being displayed among the people that are leading in this field of political leadership. Some of us will have probably opportunities to interact with them. It's good that we continue to reinforce some of these qualities when we come across our leaders, especially in the political arena. Military leadership is very core. It's very core. I'll take maybe a little bit more minutes on this, just to try and get a few lessons, because there are quite a number of lessons that we can get from this style of leadership. And let's flow together, just trying to reorganize my screen here. So military leadership, sorry. We are talking about the art of influencing, directing men in such a manner to obtain their willing obedience, very important there, willing obedience, respect, confidence, and loyal cooperation in order to accomplish the mission. So a number of issues will come up when we are looking at the military leadership. From the definition and also from these other slides that I'm going to take you through. So when you're looking at military leadership, we first get back to our 6 I's. The process of influencing, the first I, which was influence. We're influencing others to accomplish the mission. So a leader will influence, but we are influencing why? To accomplish a mission. And we also need to provide purpose, direction, and motivation. Yeah. And I think when you're looking at the definition of leadership, we'll get into the details of definitions of leadership. But this military leadership really gives us a very practical and a very viable definition of leadership, with some distinct aspects that are very important to any leader. Influence to accomplish a mission. So there must be a mission, there must be a purpose, and we must offer direction, and there must be motivation. We normally enhance, and when we were looking at management versus leadership, we talked about the issues of leaders focusing on the people, and also focusing on issues of earning trust, dealing with the intrinsic motivation. So the most fundamental and important technique when you're looking at military leadership is the issue of chain of command. So the objective is to accomplish a mission. And it's for the concern for the welfare of the bigger community, or the community at large. So just remember that some factors of leadership under military leadership, there is the led, maybe the followers, you can call them the followers, the leader, the situation that you are in, and also the key other aspect is the communication. These are very important factors of leadership at the military leadership, but also in our context of leadership, wherever you are leading. Some of the principles of leadership here: know yourself and seek self-improvement. Very important as a military leader. Know yourself and seek self-improvement. Similar to all the other aspects or categories of leadership, this is a principle that is applicable. Be technically and tactically proficient. Seek responsibility and take responsibility for your actions, and make sound and timely decisions. Military leadership, this is critical. Make sound and timely decisions. We had a chance to, I think, observe some of these principles in our current setup of leadership, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic. We were operating under very stringent time spans. We were operating at a very dynamic environment. There was no time to prolong decisions that needed to be made on time, because this is a virus that was spreading very fast, and therefore sound and timely decisions were very key. And we'll all encounter some of these scenarios as we lead the people. Sometimes there will be form of crisis that will not give us enough time to delay making decisions, and we'll have to be very prompt. And I think this is key lessons from military leadership. Set the example, know your soldier, and look out for their welfare. Understand your environment, understand the people that you are leading, and know them, know their strength, know their weaknesses, and probably understand their potential, so that you can be able to position them appropriately. We also like linking leadership to coaching. Coaching is a style of leadership. And as a coach, you have to position the players in their rightful position for the entire team to win. So this is critical. Keep your subordinate informed, that is communication. Develop a sense of responsibility in your subordinates. Everybody has to know their responsibility, they have to know their place, and they also have to have the big picture in mind as they continue to lead. Ensure that the task is understood, supervised, and accomplished. Build the team. Employ your unit in accordance with its capabilities. So those are some of the leadership principles from military leadership. Some traits, one of the key traits, or some of the key traits under military leadership: knowledge. You need to have knowledge. We've talked about understand the environment, understand yourself, understand how to improve yourself, the courage, initiative, decisiveness, tact, justice, and the issues of dependability. Other traits: bearing, endurance, enthusiasm, and integrity, loyal, and also you must be able to make proper judgment at the right time. Yeah, so I think there are quite a number of lessons that we can pick from this, and I would just like that you just take time to consider and think about this, and see some of the key lessons that you can be able to pick from military leadership, because I think this is a very important category of leadership, with some of the principles that are still applicable to our current context and to our current sphere of leadership. Okay, so keep on sharing through the chat. If you find something is coming out so clear and you want us just to exchange as a group, you are free to share as we move on. So the other category of leadership is religious leadership. Yeah, so we are talking about a religious leadership is one who is organized by a religious body. I think that is common, as having some authority within that body. And the leader is of a religious order. But the most important, they give the people hope, guidance, and courage that they need to stay strong in their faith. Yeah. So as a religious leader, the role is to give people hope, to guide people, to build courage, which they need to be able to stay strong in their faith. During the COVID-19 pandemic, all these categories of leadership, they had their own role to play. And for religious leadership, that aspect of instilling hope in people was a very, very important factor. Because if people lose hope, they have lost everything. If people lose hope, then they can't even tap into the potential that they have in them. So religious leadership is very critical. And I think when I'm engaging with the religious leaders, one of the major lessons I like putting across is that this is the only category of leadership that deals with the inner man. Deals with the inner man. Some of the other leadership styles, like political, they rely so much on the outside environment, like constitution and bylaws and all those other aspects to be able to guide people. But for us, as much as we rely, or for the religious leaders, as much as they rely on the Bible, but they are dealing with the inner man. It's about equipping the inner man, because faith is an inner aspect of a person. So we are looking at the inner man. So if people lose hope, then all these other aspects of leadership may not function properly. So for the political leadership, it's good and it's very good in arena or sphere of leadership. Military leadership also very critical. But when you come to religious leadership, it's very, very important in terms of building or instilling hope. This leadership, this category of leadership, focuses on transforming relationship, in which the leader invests in the growth, development of the followers, empowering them to become what God has gifted them to be. This is really critical. This is very critical. It is relational. It's relational. It's about relationship. Transforming relationship. And the leader invests in the growth. So we are investing in the growth of the people that we are leading, development of those followers, and also empowering them to become what God has gifted them to be. So we are stewards. We are stewards, or the religious leaders are stewards, and they are there to be able to shepherd, offer shepherd leadership, offer servant leadership, demonstrate humility, cultivate a relational environment, and also understand that they are there, or we are there as stewards. Yeah, I think I cannot emphasize this more than that. And I trust that this is bringing out maybe one or two aspects that we need to build in us, so that we can be able to be those stewards that will give an account, which we feel that we were entrusted, and whatever was entrusted on us, we were able to use it efficiently, effectively, or to be able to lead efficiently and effectively. And the people under our charge are able to manifest or to serve that potential that is in them. So very, very important. And I felt this is good. This part of the lesson is not in the manual, but since we'll be sharing this PowerPoint with you, you'll be able to look at it and just get more details. as you do your own personal review. So unless there is some messages in the chat, I will just want to shift on, but let me just check if there is any message on the chat. Okay, I can see there's some input. Okay, see the big picture, communicate the big picture, very important. Look for details. The more you look, the more you get. I think this is combining the icebreaker and the lesson that part of the lesson that I've already handled. See details for better understanding. Appreciate that people see and understand things differently depending on how much details they have. Focus. You only get what you are looking at or what you focus on. Yeah, I think we can keep on sharing as we move on. For the interest of time, I just want to move on because we'll want to give you some time in your breakout rooms. So I'll just want to maximize the few minutes I have, and then we'll give you some time to be able to meet. So the evolution of leadership. You went through the lesson this week. Through the chapters. This was one of the chapters that we were going through in the book, Purpose Driven Leader. So I hope that you are able to go through chapter 2. Chapter 2 talks about evolution of leadership. So if I don't go into so much details, is because this is just complementary information. Because if all of us can review the book, then when it comes to the lesson, it becomes much easier to be able to spend much less time in the lesson because you already have an idea of what we are going through. So leadership has evolved. Leadership has evolved. Late 1800s, we were talking about the great man theory. And as we move on to 1900, trait theory, 1950, behavioral theory, 1960, we are talking about contingency and situational theories. 1970, servant, charismatic, and transactional theories. But I think some of these, as much as they are in the timeline, they might have started earlier. Probably like servant leadership is an old style of leadership. And then transformational leadership theory, 1980s. And we are talking about integrated leader manager adaptive leadership in 2000 and forward. And as much as it has evolved, what happens, we looked at the icebreaker and we were looking at the lessons. And I remember Reverend Evanson talked about combination to be able to come up with a new idea or a new style. And now this is really what is happening. I think there is a lot of combination. No one style really stands on its own or one theory stands on its own. And as we look at this, just to give us an understanding of what they are all about and just to appreciate so that you can evaluate yourself, evaluate the leader that is leading you or the leaders that you are leading, just to understand them and from whatever theory they are applying and whatever approach they are applying in their leadership. This is for self-awareness and also probably to build more, to build your capacity more and the capacity of the people that you are leading. So the great man theory talks about leaders are born. Yeah, people are born leader, born to lead. So there are those who are from the beginning, from birth, they already have those traits of leadership. It says that leaders are born, not made. I know this is a topic and a discussion that is always there. Are leaders born or are leaders made? For this theory, the believers of this theory, they believe that leaders are born, they are not made. Great leaders will arise when there's a great need. The trait theory of leadership, it talks about great leaders are born, not made, related to the first one. Leaders are born with certain character traits or qualities. Yeah, so this theory assumes that if you could identify some people with correct traits, you will be able to identify leaders or individual with the leadership potential. And then we move on to the skills theory of leadership. To be a leader, according to this theory, you need technical skills in your domain, people skills and conceptual skills, which is the ability to see the big picture and think strategically. Identify a set of key rather than general qualities of a leader. I like this theory because it combines a few aspects that are very, very important. And I think even from the beginning of the lesson, we have been talking about this. You remember the triangle of success, successful leadership. We are talking about skills. We are talking about attitude. We are talking about knowledge. Remember the iceberg model. We are talking about the tip being the skills, the knowledge, and then underneath we are talking about some of the soft skills that are very important: attitude, motivation, character. Those are under the ocean, but are very, very important. So the skills theory of leadership, it focuses on a combination. You need technical skills in your domain. So be an expert in your domain, mastery in your domain. You need people skills, very important, and conceptual skills, which is the ability to see the big picture and think strategically. Think strategically. This is a theory that I feel is really important. And you have talked about getting more details. If you really want to study more about this theory, I would advocate you take an in-depth analysis at the skills theory of leadership. Then we talk about the style theory of leadership. It focuses on style such as democratic, participatory leadership. And such leaders are people-friendly, but they insist on performance. Yeah. And then we have situational leadership theory. And the arguments here, there is no one model that fits all situations. There is no one model of leadership that fits all situations. That is what the believers of this theory believe, that certain styles and traits fit in one situation, but not another. The leader must therefore adapt to the situation. In this period of COVID-19, one of the key words, one of the buzzwords has been adapt. We have to adapt. Change has come. We are in a new season where things have shifted. We have moved to the technology environment. There's so much happening. And therefore, as a leader, that quick shifting, quick ability to adapt is very important. In any dynamic environment, the aspect of adaptability is very important. So situational leadership is also very key, especially when we bring in the aspect of adapting to the situation. And then the contingency theory, pick the right leader for the situation rather than leader adapting to the situation. Yeah, so this one is shifting, is flipping the situational leadership theory. So it's about picking the right leader for the situation. It's not about the leader adapting to the situation. So effective leadership is contingent, yeah, on matching the leader's style to the setting. So I think you're appreciating the thinking behind all these theories. And we are still developing them. We're still developing them. They're still coming up even as we continue. Transactional leadership, people follow a leader based on incentives in place. So the role of a leader is to find the right mix of rewards and sanctions and then monitor the occurrences. Transactional leadership. It's about incentives It's about the right mix of rewards and sanctions. So this one is not really relational. It's about transaction. It's focused on particular engagements and what you get or what is offered to you. Transformational leadership, we're getting closer to what we've been talking about here, focusing on cultivating followership rather than paying for it, or punishing non-compliance. So this is also a flip on transactional leadership. It's not about paying, or it's not about the punishment, it's not about the sanctions, it's not about the rewards. It's cultivating followership. And James talked about this. He theorized that transformational leadership is actually a process where leaders interact with their followers and inspire each other to advance together. It's about inspiration. It's about inspiring the people. Transactional, it's about the incentives. It's about the sanctions. It's about the rewards. But when you're looking at transformational leadership, it's about probably the big picture, the why, and also that issue of cultivating the inspiring and motivating the team to be able to work together. And some of the strategies of inspiring or motivating, I think we'll be getting more details as we move on. And then leader-member exchange theory basically says that a leader's success is based on a fair exchange between the leader and the followers. A fair exchange between the leader and the followers. It's some sort of engagements that keeps the two teams working together. And then here we are, servant leadership. Very, very important style of leadership. Yeah, it focuses on a leader serving rather than being served. For the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and offer himself as a ransom. Very important. I think that is the perfect model of leadership when you're talking about servant leadership. Such a leader creates an environment of trust and cooperation, reciprocal service, and ultimately higher performance. And in this setup, people follow out of love and gratitude rather than compulsion or fear or manipulation. The best model for this leadership, as I've said, is Jesus Christ. Such leaders lead through inspiration rather than manipulation, control, or threats. Very critical, very important. When we're talking about any true leadership, it's about servant leadership. And here we are, global leadership. For us as students of this program, our thinking, our belief of the kind of leader that we need to be is to adopt a combination of some of these theories. And we are looking at a mix of transformational leadership, very important. We are talking about ambidextrous leadership, very important. We are talking about servant and purpose-driven leadership. So transformational leadership aspects are very key for us. Servant leadership are a very key aspect, and also the purpose, the bigger picture. And I've brought in another word there, which I want to explain in the next slide. Ambidextrous leadership. And this style of leadership focuses on two key aspects. But the word ambidextrous or ambidexterity, now we'll have to struggle with the pronunciation here. I think everybody will pronounce this word at the end of the lesson. Is the ability to use both the left and the right hand equally. The word ambi is derived from Latin and it means both. So ambidextrous leadership is a leadership style in which the leader possesses these qualities. A dual focus leadership approach that works towards what is best for individual and what is best for the organization as a whole simultaneously. So it's a two-hand approach. It's ability to use the two hands. And the two hand might mean different aspects. One of the aspects is that you must be able to lead the people in a dual-focused approach, build the individuals as they build the organization simultaneously. Secondly, explore new opportunities while exploiting existing opportunities. And thirdly, explore long-term goals while serving short-term goals. Yeah, so we must be able to look at what are the existing opportunities, what are the short-term issues that we are addressing now, but at the same time, maintain a focus on the bigger picture and the long-term aspects that we are pursuing. That is ambidextrous leadership, being able to use both of your hands. And this reminds me of Nehemiah when they were building. They were building, they were building, and at the same time they were under threats. They were under threats. They were being threatened. So they had to adopt this style of leadership. You are building with one hand and the other hand is holding a weapon. Just in case of anything, you can protect yourself. Yeah. So there are different approaches that you can look at this, but I think the most important is that look at the long term, but also exploit on the short term. And this brings us back to management versus leadership. And that is why those two roles are very important. The managers will help us to make sure we are maximizing the short-term aspect. But the leader will also be very instrumental to ensure we are not losing the big picture of the vision that we are pursuing. Okay, so lesson 7, that brings us to the end of lesson 7. And I think I'll just mention about the challenge. What is the leadership challenge for lesson 7? Look at page, should be page 38. But for now, just look at the screen. Which theory best describes your leadership style? Identify strategies to employ to transition towards purpose-driven leader or advance your leadership style. In other words, we can also talk about some of the strategies to employ to transition to a global leader. And a global leader, we have talked about the mix, transformational, the issues of ambidextrous leadership, the issues of purpose-driven leadership, the issues of servant leadership. So what are some of the qualities that we can pick from this lesson, which you can say, for this, I want to run with this. I want to run with this quality. Probably this week, I want to refine myself on some certain aspect that I feel they need more improvement, or they need more enhancement, or they need more capacity building, so that you can improve your leadership style. So I'll pause there for 2 or 3 minutes, and I will want to welcome Reverend Kahindi or Mr. Njao, just to look at the chat and share 1 or 2 points as we move on to the next lesson. Welcome, Reverend.
Thank you very much, Chairman, for unpacking that. I think leaders, we are learning quite a lot here. And this lesson, I think you will need to read and master. Looking at the chat, let me just pick a few comments here. See, there are 2 comments here. There is one who says, a good leader is one who led people to see hope inside themselves. So a good leader is one who makes people see the hope in themselves. Then that way they're motivated enough to go ahead. And someone asked, can the military leadership be applicable by religious leadership? Yes and no at the same time. If you look at the way God had set up his things, beginning from the times of Moses, Moses practiced more of military than even servant leadership during those times. And a few of them, or most of the prophets, Actually, theirs was you either do this or it is this. There wasn't room for mercy. Until Jesus came, and for him, it was servant leadership. Now, today, we have learned something here because the last one was called global leadership, which brought us this big word, which I hope somebody can just unmute and pronounce it, ambidextrous. Ambidextrous. Well, there is one that was said that like it's situational. So in a church setting, as much as you would be leaning on being a servant leader, there are situations which demand that the military type comes in. On the matters of sin, for instance, there are no two ways about it. You cannot say you are a servant and therefore you condone sin. What it reaches there is either you sinful or no sinful. There are not two ways about it. So it comes to that issue of situational leadership. So all of these things, as somebody here has correctly put it, this is Reverend Evanson. He says, good leadership therefore requires one to combine different qualities from each of these models. So Reverend, that is correctly captured. Good leadership, there are times when you have to sweet talk people. There are times when you have to just say, this is the way, and there's no room for anything else. And because you have to combine those, that's why the chairman finished by saying, there is global leadership, you be ambidextrous, where you have to balance this and this at any one given time. Leading is a delicate balancing act. You apply this here, it works. Next time, instead of applying that, you apply something else, because if you apply the same thing, it will break. Be ambidextrous. Can somebody unmute and just tell me ambidextrous? Who can try that? Hey, nobody wants to try. Ambidextrous.
I'm here.
Yeah, just say it.
Let me try. Ambidextrous.
Yes.
Did I try?
Well, it's a try. Now, let us be the judge before the end of this.
Ambidextrous.
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 Okay, it's okay. We are going back to chairman. Practice that one because I'll come back to you. We have to get these ones. We are learning and we must learn. Thank you very much. Chairman, take it on. From there, let's go to 8.
Thank you, leaders. Ambidextrous. Yeah, so we'll keep on rehearsing that as we continue. Otherwise, I like your input. It's about combination. And I thank Reverend Evanson. He kicked on this lesson very well. The icebreaker, it's about combination. So even in leadership, all these theories and all these styles are very important. But what helps us mostly is the
Chairman,
knowledge.
you're off. I think your network.
Hello.
Yeah, you are back. Your network was shaking.
Okay. Okay. So I'm
Yes,
okay
you're clear
now?
Good.
Okay.
You're okay now. Yep.
Yeah, so as I was saying, we kicked on by talking about combination, looking at the details. And I think the very important issue is that we need to understand our environment. That is very important. And we looked at that aspect from military leadership. Understand the environment you are leading in, and also have the knowledge of which styles are out there so that you can be able to know. Because if you have knowledge, then you'll be able to know. In this setup, I need to activate another style of leadership because you already have the knowledge of the different styles and theories of leadership that are out there. So knowledge is very important. And I always point out that when Jesus and the disciples were moving, crossing the sea, and there was a storm, as much as the disciples were panicked, Jesus was able to maintain calm because he knew something that others, the disciples, did not know. He had a knowledge of something that they did not know. He had knowledge about himself. He knew the knowledge he had, the power he had over the circumstance. He knew where he had come from. So knowledge sets us apart. Sometimes people may, because of lack of knowledge, it may provoke people to panic because you don't know what to do. You don't know how to lead, how to respond in certain particular situations. But when you have this knowledge, you'll be able to know here, I need to activate probably a different style of leadership. So much for that. Let's move on to lesson 8, leadership development phases. We look at a few phases of leadership. And I will focus on a book titled Authentic Leadership Guide by Bill George. And he notes that leadership is not something you are born with. Leadership requires constant self-development and growth. And leadership is a journey with 3 distinct phases. According to him, there are 3 distinct phases. And we can go together on page 39. Page 39 in our manual, Becoming a Global Leader, page 39. There are some blank spaces there. Yeah, so he talks about 3 distinct phases. The first phase, preparing for leadership. And then secondly, you transition to leading. Thirdly, you transition to giving back. So there are those who are preparing for leadership. There are those who are already leading. And there are those who are now giving back. They're giving back the knowledge, they're giving back maybe their mentorship and many other aspects. You can look at the authentic leader and some of the aspects that he talked about there. I think I just want to shift from that a little bit for now. So let's look at all these phases. Phase 1, preparing for leadership. And the key important aspect there is character development. Character development, and more importantly, self-leadership. I cannot lead others, as we have been saying, until I'm able to lead myself. And at some point in leadership, it's not what we do, but it's the life that we live that influences the people. And that brings in the aspect of character development. I happened to attend a meeting, a conference, where Dr. Yong Cho of Yoido Full Gospel in South Korea was speaking. And he did not need to speak for long, just spoke for less than 10 minutes, but everybody listened. And every word he was saying was very important. People are focused on what he was saying. And what triggered my mind is that at some point in life, it is not the words that adds weight, that brings conviction, that influences, but it's the lifestyle that someone has lived. So the lifestyle will either add weight or it will deduct weight to what we say. So character development is very key, and we have a whole session on this as we move on. The second phase, we talk about you start leading. This is the phase where a leader now leads. You step into leadership, taking initiative, embracing new challenges until you reach the peak of leadership. So it's about taking initiative. I think later on I'll take you through some phases